I remember when people laughed at the idea that we could blanket the planet with thousands of satellites and somehow make the internet faster instead of worse. And I remember sitting there thinking that the real problem wasn't rockets or orbits or physics, it was resignation. The belief that large parts of the world simply had to accept slow, unreliable, or non-existent connectivity. And Starlink started as a very straightforward question in my head. What if the internet didn't depend on trenches in the ground, corrupt middlemen, or decades-old infrastructure? What if it came from space and just worked everywhere? So we began launching the first satellites, not because it was easy or profitable, but because it was necessary, because a civilization that wants to be multi-planetary and truly resilient can't have billions of people digitally isolated. And now when I look at the numbers and see Starlink approaching 9 million users, it's not a vanity metric to me. It's a signal that the system is doing what it was meant to do, growing by roughly 20,000 people a day, not because of hype, but because the service solves a real problem for real humans, farmers in remote regions, students who couldn't attend online classes, doctors running telemedicine clinics, ships at sea, disaster zones where everything else has failed, and every new user represents another node in a global nervous system that didn't exist before. I think back to the early launches where rockets were landing on drone ships and people said we were crazy for reusing them. But that reusability is exactly what made Starlink possible at scale. Because cost per launch matters when you are deploying a constellation measured in tens of thousands. And every iteration we make the satellites smarter, lighter, more capable, with laser links that turn space itself into a high-speed backbone, bypassing the bottlenecks on the ground. And the real story here isn't just growth, it's acceleration. Because once the network reaches a certain density, the performance jumps dramatically, latency drops, reliability increases, and suddenly regions that were once digital deserts become competitive overnight, which has massive implications for economic freedom and human potential. And yes, there are challenges, regulatory friction, orbital debris concerns, spectrum politics, but those are solvable problems, engineering problems, coordination problems, not fundamental barriers. And when I talk about adding 20,000 users a day, I don't see a graph going up, I see momentum. A feedback loop where better service attracts more users, which funds more launches, which improves coverage, which attracts more users. And that loop is what allows us to move fast without compromising safety or sustainability. Because this isn't a short-term play, it's infrastructure for decades. Something that will quietly sit in the background of people's lives while enabling things we can't fully predict yet. From autonomous systems to global education platforms, to emergency response networks that don't collapse when they're needed most. And on a more personal level, Starlink also supports the broader mission, because making life multiplanetary isn't just about Mars, it's about building systems that work anywhere, systems that are robust, redundant, and scalable. And space-based internet is a training ground for that future. So when people say Starlink is growing fast, I agree. But speed was never the point, impact was. And if we're doing this right, then one day 9 million users will seem small, compared to a future where access to information is as universal as access to the sky above you. When I think about what comes next, I don't think in quarters or headlines, I think in orders of magnitude. Because 9 million users isn't a finish line. It's barely the end of the beginning. And the interesting thing about Starlink is that once you solve the hard physics and deployment problems, the rest becomes an optimization exercise. Better antennas, smarter routing, lower power consumption, terminals that set themselves up in minutes instead of hours. And every improvement compounds across millions of people simultaneously, which is something most products never get to experience. And I've always believed that technology should feel like magic, but be grounded in first principles. So when someone in a remote village opens a laptop and suddenly has access to the same information flow as someone in a major city, that's not magic. That's orbital mechanics, phased array antennas, and a lot of people working insanely hard to make something elegant out of something complex. And what excites me most is watching Starlink quietly change the negotiating power of individuals and small communities. Because connectivity isn't just about streaming video. It's about choice. It's about being able to sell your work globally, learn anything instantly, organize locally without being dependent on fragile infrastructure, and that has second-order effects that are much larger than the service itself. And internally, we talk a lot about resilience, how the network performs under stress, during wars, natural disasters, censorship attempts, because the real test of any system is not how it works on a good day, but how it works on the worst day imaginable. And Starlink has already been tested in ways we never could have simulated, which feeds back into making it stronger, more adaptive, more decentralized. And I won't pretend it's perfect, it's not, nothing is, but iteration speed matters more than initial perfection. In SpaceX's culture has always been about learning fast and fixing faster. And that mindset is embedded in Starlink at every level, from satellite design to software updates, pushed across the entire constellation. And sometimes people ask why SpaceX is even doing this, and why a rocket company is also an internet provider. And the answer is simple. To build big things, you need cash flow. And to build the biggest thing humanity has ever attempted, you need a lot of it. But more importantly, you need a reason that aligns profit with progress. And Starlink does that by funding exploration while simultaneously improving life on Earth, which is a rare alignment. And when I imagine the future, I see Starlink terminals becoming smaller, cheaper, almost invisible, integrated into vehicles, homes, and devices we haven't invented yet. And the network itself becoming so dense and intelligent that outages are basically non-existent. And at that point, global connectivity stops being a story and starts being an assumption, like electricity or GPS. And assumptions are powerful because they free people to think about higher level problems. And maybe that's the real story I'm trying to tell. That Starlink isn't about satellites or users or growth charts. It's about removing a constraint that humanity has lived with for too long. And if we do our job right, most people won't even think about it. They'll just live in a world where information flows freely from space to the ground and back again, quietly, relentlessly, every single day. There's also a philosophical layer to this that doesn't get talked about much because it's harder to quantify, but I think about it constantly, which is that civilizations advance when communication bandwidth increases, when ideas can move faster than institutions that try to slow them down. And Starlink is fundamentally a bandwidth expansion for humanity, not just in megabits per second, but in opportunity per person. Because when 9 million people are connected today, that means 9 million perspectives can participate in the global conversation instead of being filtered out by geography. And as that number grows, the system starts to feel less like a product and more like a public utility of the future. Except it's built by engineers iterating in real time instead of committees debating for decades. And that speed matters because the world doesn't wait. Crises don't wait. Innovation doesn't wait. And I've seen firsthand how fragile centralized systems are when they're stressed, whether it's energy grids, supply chains, or communications networks. So a distributed, space-based internet becomes a kind of insurance policy for civilization itself, something that keeps knowledge flowing even when things on the ground break. And I won't pretend there weren't moments where this felt overwhelming, where the scale of what we were attempting seemed almost unreasonable. Launching thousands of satellites, coordinating orbits, managing spectrum, building user terminals that normal people could afford, all while also building rockets, spacecraft, and a path to Mars. But the thing I've learned is that hard problems don't get easier by avoiding them. They get easier by attacking them directly and learning faster than anyone else. And Starlink is a direct attack on one of the oldest bottlenecks humanity has had, which is uneven access to information and the growth rate people talk about. The 20,000 users a day, that's not marketing, that's pull, that's demand emerging naturally because the value proposition is obvious once you experience it. And what's really interesting is how Starlink changes the geometry of the internet itself, because traffic no longer has to bounce inefficiently through terrestrial routes. It can move point to point through space, which in some cases is literally faster than light through fiber because of refractive index differences, and that opens up entirely new architectures for global systems, financial networks, scientific collaboration, real-time control of machines across continents. Things that sound abstract now but will feel normal later. And